Hey, college football fans, it's Greene, longtime professional sports handicapper and professional sports bettor here in Vegas for the past 35 years, and this is Gary Wins Videos. And this is the game that's going to start off the Saturday card. Rivalry week in college football this week, the most fun week of the year. And this is a great matchup between Michigan and Ohio State for many years, the two contenders in the Big Ten. And this time around, it's not the same because Michigan is just in a very down year. Michigan just 6-5. They have secured a bowl bid, but that's not what you're hoping for after you win the national championship. As far as Ohio State, they're still in the driver's seat here, 11-1. Should be able to get to the championship game regardless and play Oregon. And then, of course, the winner of that game is going to get that guaranteed spot in the 1-4 bracket. But for this game, the biggest game in head coach Ryan Day of Ohio State's coaching career. This is a must-win game on Saturday, and this game's at 9 a.m. Fox TV, 12 noon for East Coasters. And this game had a lot of intrigue the last 3 years, but the difference is for Michigan this year, they don't have Jim Harbaugh, they don't have J.J. McCarthy at quarterback, just not really a good team at all this year. They had quarterback musical chairs. Now they're back to Warren. Neither quarterback's been able to do anything for this offense. But this Michigan offense really, basically, they won the last 3 years. And this offense this year is not anything to be able to contend with what Ohio State has. Ohio State has one of the best running back rooms in the country. Quarterback Will Howard's done a fantastic job in his 1 year here. This is a situation right now where these two teams, surprisingly, have won over the total 10 straight years in a row. And that's more surprising because they did both have good defenses over the course of the past few years, but offenses seem to always dominate. I could see offense dominating by Ohio State. I can't see it by Michigan in this game. When we look at these two teams, offensive points, Ohio State scores 38 points a game. Michigan just 23. Defensive points allowed, Ohio State allows just 10 points per game, folks. Michigan 21. Now, in the Ohio State games at home this year, they've won by 46, 56, 35, 31, 28, 45, 23. And they only had one close game where they just won by 4 points against Nebraska. So basically, all these games, they won the game by more than what the spread is in this game. And the spread for this game is Ohio State, an unbelievable 19.5 point favorite. The total 42.5 for the game they call the game. And that's pretty much as simple as it gets. Michigan on the road this year, they played most of their games at home, but on the road, lost all 3 of them. They lost by 10 at Washington. They had 287 total yards. They scored only 17 points. They lost by 14 at Illinois. They had 322 total yards. They scored only 7 points. They lost by 5 at Indiana, but that's almost hard to even believe because they only had 206 total yards against Indiana. So this team has really struggled, especially on offense, on the road in their few contests on the road this year. The defense, the most points that they've allowed Michigan this year, they allowed 38 to Oregon, 31 to Texas. The two better, higher flying type teams, they gave up a lot of points to. The rest of the league has been so down in the Big Ten that's what got their numbers overall average-wise down to just 21 points a game. But you really want to more look at the two games that they played, two solid teams in Oregon and Texas, and 38-31 is what they gave up in those two. Now, again, last few years they had J.J. McCarthy, not just a good game manager, but a kid that could make the passes when they need it. You know, last week, Ohio State sacked Indiana quarterback Rourke 5 times. Their defensive line was really good, and they should be able to do the same thing against this Michigan offensive line tomorrow or Saturday morning. When we look at the situation again for this game, for Michigan to win this game, in my mind, they would have to be able to run the ball 35 to 40 times, 5-yard average per carry, get a couple hundred yards rushing, keep the ball away from Michigan, And on top of that, I believe they would have to win the turnover battle and be not just +1, at least +2, or get a special teams or a defensive touchdown. If they could do that, they can hang in there. But there's too much firepower on the Ohio State side. But the biggest thing is that Ohio State has 3-year revenge, and Ryan Day cannot afford to just sneak by even with a win, even though just winning is all they need to do, and that should set them up well for the college football playoff. This game, unfortunately, has decided who would go to the college football playoff for a couple years there. That's not the case this time around because Michigan's out and Ohio State's going to be in a college football playoff regardless of whether they win this game or not. But when you watched Ohio State last week score a touchdown on Indiana when they were up big, and that was late, very late, that shows you that they have a different mentality right now, and their foot's going to be on the gas in this game, I think, late against Michigan, too. If they can win by 40, they're going to try to do it. They want to avenge 3 straight losses to the team that they hate more than any team in college football. One last thing, Ohio State basically has had a good resume overall, too. They have beaten 5 bowl teams. There's only 2 higher teams this year, Oregon being one of them and Texas being the other, that have beaten more bowl-eligible teams so far this year. So they've gotten it done for the most part, and they've had a decent schedule enough to showcase that they are one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. So I would do one thing only, either Iowa State or nothing. There's nothing that would put me on Michigan in this game. Of course, 19.5. It is a rivalry. We've seen a lot of these rivalries. Georgia Tech giving Georgia a good game. Other rivalry games. Again, most of the time in rivalry games, you can throw out the records. Now, if Ohio State won last year or they won 2 in a row, 3 in a row, it would be a totally different story. But the fact that they've lost 3 straight games, Ryan Day has to save face, and he needs to go out there and destroy this Michigan team because Michigan's got some good recruits and a top recruiting quarterback coming in next year. You got to make sure that you show your fans that you own Michigan at least one time in a 4-year period, especially these kids that are seniors for the Ohio State team this year. They got to go out of there and have 1 win, and if it's going to be 1 win, they're going to try to win it big, I think. So should be an interesting game. That's the game to kick off our Saturday college football slate, and I'm going to do a couple previews, including Texas and Texas A&M, a later start on Saturday night. So check back for that video as well. And we hope all your wagers this weekend are winning ones, and happy Thanksgiving weekend to all.